We have not one, not two, but 4 new champions crowned. Plus, CM Punk down, Drew McIntyre up, and the return of the real tribal chief, Roman Reigns. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, and this is your SummerSlam 2024 review. Come on in. Ooh, yeah. Come on in. Take a seat. Hang out with me. Let's talk some SummerSlam, baby. I am still so pissed off. I went to SummerSlam last year in Detroit, Lions Stadium, Ford Field, and the show was not half the show that this one was. I loved this SummerSlam. I don't know about you guys, but I don't got a whole lot to complain about. A couple things here and there, and we'll get to that. But before we do, if I could bug you to hit that subscribe button down below, help a brother out, help me grow this channel, and thus I can rule the world with an iron fist. Let's get into the matches. We had 7 matches on this card, starting with one that surprised me. It was kind of weird that this one opened. Rhea Ripley challenging Liv Morgan for the Women's World's Championship. Now, in my predictions video, I had predicted basically exactly what would happen. And I'm not the only one. I'm not Nostradamus here. This was written on the wall. And sometimes good stories are predictable, and that's fine. And you don't need to do a swerve just because it's predictable or whatever. A good story is a good story. And that's exactly what they told, with Dirty Dom doing the dirty deed, turning on Mommy for Liv Morgan. They played it really well, too, with the steel chair. At first, saying, oh, you can't win the title if you cheat, if you use the chair. So plausible deniability, right? And I thought that's what they would do. Even the second time there was, I forgot exactly how it played out. But yeah, the second time, was it the second or was it the third time the chair came into play, where Dom tried to tell the referee to get the chair out of the ring, and that gave enough time for Liv to hit the finisher on the steel chair. Played out perfectly, but then at the end, Dirty Dom plants the kiss on Liv Morgan and betrays Mommy. This match was okay. It was a good, solid opener. Nothing to complain about here. I watched it with my girlfriend, who is a physical therapist, and she said it looked like Rhea legit dislocated her shoulder, like popped it out of socket. Plausible that it just looks weird like that now because of her previous injury. Plausible she's able to dislocate it and then pop it back in. People can do that. Maybe that's something she's able to do now after her injury. But physical therapists are trained to identify literally everything in the human body. So she said it looked like that fucker was hanging out. So if she says it is, it very likely could have been. I don't know that they would have worked through it, though, but it's just a fascinating little tidbit to add into that. But overall, it played out exactly like we all thought it would, or most people thought anyway, and I'm happy with the way that it played out. There's more story to be told here, and that's exactly the way that you want it. Sami Zayn defends the Intercontinental Championship against Braun Breaker, and this was exactly what pretty much everybody thought it would be. I actually did go the contrarian route on this one in my predictions. I thought that, yes, Braun would win the Intercontinental title, but not here at SummerSlam, that Sami would sneak one out yet again, but then would lose very shortly to Braun in another match or some other fashion. But they just went ahead and did it right here. Pulled the trigger, gave it to Braun, and the Braun Breaker era begins, and I'm fine with that. In fact, even when I made my prediction, I knew it was kind of like, well, I said as much. Like, it's not going to surprise me if they give the strap to old Braun Breaker and just light the fire under his ass and let him go. And that's exactly what they're going to do. There's video out there of his proud papa and Uncle Scott watching up in the VIP, the Legends booth up there, watching their son and nephew win their way into the record books. The Intercontinental title is a big title. It's a big deal still to this day. I think Gunther gave it a lot of value, and I'm perfectly happy with Braun Breaker being the champion, and let's fucking give it to him for a good little run. He basically squashed Sammy, right? A glorified squash. It didn't last very long. He didn't destroy Sammy, but he did make quick work of him, and I'm all for it. Logan Paul defended the United States Championship against LA Knight. And this one was also pretty predictable in my opinion, just because Logan's had the belt for almost a year now and barely defended it. It kind of served its purpose. He spent basically a full year carrying it with him. As I said in my prediction show, the whole point of Logan having the title is that he's a celebrity. He's a social media influencer. They literally are using him as a social media influencer to influence people into becoming WWE fans. He's tapping into a whole other fan base that wouldn't otherwise watch wrestling or get that kind of reach just by carrying around the title and representing the company like that. So he did a fine job of that, but it has now served its purpose. You don't do that for years and years. He got almost a year out of it. I'd say it's pretty good. SummerSlam's a good place to end it. LA Knight, too, he could not absorb a loss here. I don't think his credibility would have been shot to shit if he lost this match. He needed a really big win, and he kind of needs a big push, too. As much as, strap the rocket ship to Braun Breaker, do the same to LA Knight. Let him go, because he's getting up there in age, and either shit or get off the pot, basically. Let him fucking go, see what he can do as United States champion. Next up was my main event, and most of yours as well, I'm sure. CM Punk finally getting in the mix with Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. I thought this was great right from the very beginning. This was my most anticipated match of the entire show. I've loved the build for this match ever since Drew injured Punk, came out the next day and said, "I prayed for this to happen," or however the accent goes, it doesn't matter. And then all of the screwing each other back and forth, the CM Punk costing Drew McIntyre the title at WrestleMania, again costing him the Money in the Bank cash in, all the way up to the bracelet thing and the bloodying up Punk. It's been phenomenal. The promo work, all of it has been incredible. This is how you tell a story. CM Punk was not even able to get physical, and he's been able to be one of, if not the most compelling stories on WWE TV still the entire time. And he delivered in the ring. I was worried about it. Punk is fragile, as we know. I worry about my punker getting hurt. But he went out there and delivered a banger. Now, a lot of people criticize Punk. They say, he's not that great of a wrestler. Well, he's not a great, 5-star Melter style wrestler, right? He's not Bryan Danielson or Will Ospreay. He can't go out there and deliver that kind of banger with all the flippy floppies and reversals and all that shit. But Punk tells great stories. He always has and continues to do so. He knows how to work that style of match, that main event style of match where you're telling stories in the match. And there was one point where it kind of started where Punk I was like, Punk, come on. He had Drew beat. He did a couple things where it looked like, okay, you're stupid, go for the win and then deal with Rollins or something like that, why are you distracting yourself? So that took me out of it just a pinch, but the more it went on in Punk, the more frustrated Punk was getting, and the more they were telling that great story of Punk costing himself the title. The first time was a little bit okay, that's a little, I'm not sure that would be a smart thing for Punk to do if I were Punk. Punk should know better than that. But, he was able to tell that story effectively of being so frustrated and so angry and so obsessed with the bracelet and are you messing with me, and his own ego and his hot head and all that it cost him the match in the end. And Drew won dominantly. I mean, it was a good. He had more of the match than Punk, but they did. Punk fought back. They had a good little back and forth, but in the end, Drew was standing there with his foot on Punk's chest, hand raised in the air, put the fucking bracelet back on even, and then kicked his feet on Punk. Punk sat there and looked up at the lights for what seemed like ever. So it was a decisive victory for Drew. And I really liked this finish. I really liked this whole match. CM Punk, again, my favorite wrestler. I'm not going to hide that. Doesn't mean he's got to win all the time. I would have liked to see him win, but I like the story that they told. I like the way that they did it. I don't think Punk loses credibility in the loss because he did it to himself, though he does look stupid, like I said, for letting his emotions get the best of him within the match and letting Seth distract him, that kind of thing. That made him look stupid, but it worked for the story that they were telling, and it played into the finish well. And when the whole thing was played out and over with, it was a beautiful piece of work. CM Punk continues to impress me with his matches, like the shit he was doing with MJF, Darby Allin, Ricky Starks, and AEW. And now he comes back, and we haven't seen him do anything in WWE yet. This is the first time a lot of people have seen him. The first exposure to that big of an audience to see him do a one-on-one match. I thought he did great. He didn't look tired. He didn't look out of place. He looked sloppy. He was slower. He was older. He didn't quite have it the way he did back in his first run, but of course not. He's older, but psychology-wise, he was there with it. Told a great story in the match, and it was the most entertaining match for me on the entire show. Period. It was fucking great. Nia Jax and Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. Not gonna lie, I just fast forwarded through this one. Didn't care. I'm not a fan of Nia Jax. She does not. Bayley isn't even lighting the world on fire for me right now. I at least respect and like Bayley. But, it's not like I'm dying to see a Bayley match or anything at this point in time. But especially with Nia Jax. And look, shit on me in the comments if you like. I don't care. I couldn't be bothered to watch this. But I did want to see the finish of the match. I wanted to see how it played out. Nia wins. I predicted Bayley would win. Just because why are we giving this push to Nia? That's what we're who's clamoring for Nia Jax to be a main eventer here, at the top of the women's card? She is the biggest one, so if you want to do the monster heel angle again, sure, I guess. But, and I actually really loved the finish, the two power bombs and then the two bonsai drops I felt was definitive again. A very decisive finish, and I liked that. I like these clean, dominant, even though you don't want to say the whole match was dominant, but the finish was certainly a dominant finish, and I at least like that. But I don't know how. Nia Jax just does nothing for me. I have no interest in seeing her, so is what it is, I guess. Damian Priest defending the World Heavyweight title against Gunther. I did predict Gunther would win this match, and he did, your new world's champion, Gunther. But I did not see the betrayal coming from Finn Balor. I guess we saw signs of it happening on Raw and stuff, but I guess I would have figured it'd be more of a slow burn, and especially with the Dominic swerve, the turn at the beginning of the show. It all ties together because the story here is the destruction of the faction. The entire Judgment Day faction has imploded now. But I guess I just didn't predict that would happen here or happen that way. I actually like that it happened. Not that you need an excuse to lose to Gunther, because Gunther can beat you clean right in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, and I don't feel like you lose credibility. But they protected Damian here by allowing, him to would have had a finish perhaps if it weren't for Finn putting Gunther's leg on the ropes and then that distraction, and then Damian saw the screen, which distracted him mentally. He saw the replay of what happened, and he's trying to process all that in his head, and that left the opening for Gunther to score the win, get that choke in, that sleeper in, and take him out. This match was a fucking meat slapper, not my favorite of the night. I thought, like, if we're talking like move, technical type presentation, I thought Logan Paul and LA Knight had the best like move banger of the night. I would say if we're talking just a meat slapping fight, definitely Damian and Gunther. That's what you usually always get. And, of course, Punk and Drew, I thought, was just overall the best match of the night, the best storytelling of the night. But this was another banger. Well worth the watch. Fucking awesome. This was just a very good show all the way across. Gunther busted open on the chest, bleeding, dripping everywhere. And Damian has looked good. I think, Damian's run now as world champion is over. But I think it was a benefit to him. I think it did elevate him out of the mid-card and gave him more credibility. So I think you can use him interchangeably now towards the top of the card and in the main event at times, believably. And I want to see him kept there. I don't want to see him slide back down the card. Obviously, it looks like he's going to feud with Finn now and probably Dirty Dom as well. But I'd like to see Damian stay in the top mix for the most part. Cody Rhodes defends the WWE Championship against Solo Sikoa. And this was fun. The opening saw Cody walking from the bus, and he ran into Arn Anderson, which is a good little callback to anybody that's familiar with Cody's AEW run. Arn was his manager the whole time. Told Cody, don't worry, I got some backup set up for you, ready to go. So they went out and they had their Bloodline Rules match. And I thought, obviously, with this being the main event, the final match, I thought this was pretty predictably the return of Roman Reigns. The match was so-so. It was fine. It felt like a Monday Night Raw match. They didn't really do anything to me that felt, pay-per-view main event level. They just had a serviceable match. Maybe it's because Solo's not capable of getting there yet. Maybe he just doesn't have that extra gear in him at this time. Who knows? He was fine. I mean, he held his own for what it was. It's perfectly, fine for a TV main event or a house show main event. I just don't know that it was SummerSlam main event worthy. It's going to be towards the very far bottom, mid to bottom of the list for SummerSlam main event matches. But that's because it was all just a setup for Roman fucking Reigns, our real tribal chief, to make his return. Sounds like they changed up the music. Please don't do that. Go back to the other music. It's the same music, but they I don't know if they made a babyface version or some shit like that. I don't like it. The original music that he had was, when he left, was the greatest entrance music of all time ever. And the only one that you can sit and listen to, loop for a half hour while he slowly meanders down the aisle. It was interesting when he came out. Michael Cole, if you noticed, I think it was Michael Cole. It might have been Graves, but I'm pretty sure it was Michael Cole. Almost played the Bobby Heenan. It was kind of a replay of when Hulk Hogan came out at Bash at the Beach 96. Michael Cole, I believe, was the guy who was like, yeah, but who is he here for, right? Well, whose side is he on? The Bobby Heenan. Everybody's like, no, Bobby, shut up. We don't want any people we don't want to spoil it. We don't want anybody's mind going there yet. We just want him to think, yes, the Hulkster's here. He's going to save the day. What? No. We don't want people before he even hits the ring going, wait, is he? Could he? What? That was the all-time worst call in the history of Bobby Heenan, which is rare because he's a fucking mastermind. But Roman came in and he charged the ring and he got in and he pumped the Superman fist punch thing gimmick. And he was kind of, he had an option of Cody and Solo, and he went right for Solo. Boom! Lays his ass out, gives the nod to Cody, and walks off. So we got a Roman babyface, and Cody wins the match, picks up the W. I believe Jacob Fatu got injured. I didn't watch the full post-show gimmick, but I do believe I saw that Triple H on that had confirmed that Jacob Fatu did get injured in the melee. But shit, hopefully as long as he's back by Survivor Series, God willing, that's really all we need him for, because we are clearly setting up now the Solo bloodline versus the Roman bloodline in a bloodline civil war feud. Got all the Tongas and the Fatu guy and the fucking Solo against Roman and the Usos. And God, I'd love to see Sami Zayn jump in there, especially because now he's not the Intercontinental Champion. He won't be busy doing other shit. Get him in the mix. And here we go. Banger. Pounded out in the War Games. I'm excited to see it. That's exactly where we're heading. And then, it's kind of planning what happens after that out in my head. And there's so many options for Cody still as champion. He's still going to have a rematch with Roman, I think, obviously, if that's not WrestleMania, it's Royal Rumble. He's got The Rock coming up again, which was, if that's not WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble. I think Randy Orton's waiting in the wings for him still, even though he's a babyface, even though he came out to help him. I think with their legacy history, with Cody being in a faction with Randy and all of that, there's a great story you can tell for Randy to turn heel and chase the WWE title. Maybe that doesn't happen until after WrestleMania. Maybe you don't even need to pull that trigger till Cody's gone through Roman again and gone through The Rock again, and there's just so many people ahead of Cody still where there's a lot of meat left on the bone for him as champion. But we'll go ahead and leave it there. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. What did you think of SummerSlam 2024? What was your favorite match? What do you think of Roman being back? Punk or Drew? Team Punk, Team Drew? Let me know. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes. And we'll catch you in the next video.